The Sports Source is brought to you by Fast Frame. Turn your memorabilia into a work of art.
You are watching East Tennessee's first and only year-round sports talk show on television. This is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning. Well, for most of you, Sunday morning. We happy to have you with us today. The Vols enter the most needed open date week in the history of the school. They are beaten up, especially mentally, following a 49-10 shellacking at the hands of Alabama. Bama's 10th straight win over the Vols. Worst beating of an Alabama team of Tennessee in more than a century. I think you have to go back to 1906. There's a thing, though, if you look it up, there's a term called the fog of war, and it's defined as the uncertainty in situational awareness experienced by participants in military operations. I think there is a fog of blowouts, wins or losses, and when you have that, I think you forget everything that's come before. So all of a sudden you have a blowout win, you'll never lose again. You have a blowout loss like yesterday, coaches suck, players suck, system sucks, fire them all, get rid of them, they're losers. We'll get into that. We're going to do this whole show taking a lot of your tweets from last night. No need to send them now, but we got the graphics up. Tons of VFL's big show. Let's dive in. First segment brought to you by my friends at Tennova Healthcare, and you are invited to a free seminar on colon cancer. Pretty important stuff here. The importance of getting yourself checked out. It could save your life. Thursday the 27th at the Foundry, they are doing this. Tennova.com is where you can go for more information. So important to catch colon cancer early. Learn more by going to Tennova.com. I want to welcome in the first round of participants today, Bob Hodge, VFL Will Overstreet, Jimmy Himes, VFL Mike Stowe. We're always glad to have him in from out of town. Guys, I believe my folks in the booth are telling me, yeah, we have a picture in UT's training room right now, live picture of the train. Oh, wait, that's the dead at Antietam. However, Tennessee's casualty list is growing that long. Let's take a look at the casualty list. Look at this. Now, these are guys that were either out before the game, pregame, that you knew weren't going to play, or were hurt during the game. Some of them came back, but at one time or another, Micah Abernathy, Evan Berry, Tyler Bird, Malik Foreman, just on and on and on. Now you've got Danny O'Brien dismissed, Preston Williams transferring. That is 19 players. That's 19 folks from your season opening roster that were out for at least a play or two yesterday. You dressed fewer than 70 players yesterday. It's an 85-man scholarship limit. You dressed 75. 4 offensive linemen were out by the end of the game. 3 freshmen and a redshirt freshman were playing on the offensive line. Burned a redshirt freshman for Marcus Tatum at right tackle. Top 4 linebackers from preseason are out. 4 of the best 5 defenders are out. The Vols were picked to win the East because they had 17 starters back. That was the main reason. Right now, yesterday, you were down to 9 of those guys back. And I got to say, if you'd gone into the season with that roster, people would have said, 4th in the East. 3rd, maybe, good season. But 9 starters back is what you're down to. Gentlemen, there are a lot of people who told me, we don't want to hear about excuses today. That's an excuse, no injuries. Don't give us any excuses. What do you say to that crowd? Is this an excuse or is this a reality?
There's a lot of things you could say to that crowd, but I mean, I think you do have to take that list and take that into account. I mean, there's no way not to say that you lose your best players on defense. You lose all of those players. There's no way to be the same team. You can't be the same team. The reason it hurts when you lose those players is because the backups didn't beat those guys out. They're not as good. So when you judge a team like this, and especially in a game when you're going up against the #1 team in the nation, and you're on your 4th big game in a row, emotions are tough, you're beat up, you're banged up, and then you have that happen again, there is an excuse. This was not going to be a good game for these guys no matter what.
365 days ago, we were talking about the fact that Tennessee took advantage of the fact that Alabama had played 8 games in a row. They were beaten up. They needed an open date, and the Vols almost beat them in Tuscaloosa. So don't sit there and think, well, you're just making excuses for Tennessee. Said the same stuff in reverse last year about Alabama. We just speak honesty. Or do we? Do you agree that injuries are an issue or no?
I'll tell you what, there's excuses and there's reasons. And the injuries are a reason. And if you want to call it an excuse, that's fine. You reach a point to where you can't function because the guys are inexperienced. They don't know how to line up quickly and correctly. They don't know the techniques. How much better, Will, were you as a senior than you were as a freshman?
A lot better.
I'm going to assume a little bit better. So you just lose so much, not just the skill, but you lose the experience and the mind that goes with the experience.
There's a lot of talk of next man up, and I think that's a great theory, and it's what every coach says because you have to say it. Players say it because they have to believe it. It's really malarkey. I mean, at some point, yeah.
At some point it is,
At
yes.
some point it's ridiculous because, for example, I had somebody tweet me yesterday. It's like they don't know that they don't know what to do, and the quarterback keeps it. Like, well, actually, you're down to linebackers number 5 and 6. Linebackers 1 and 2, Kirkland, Reeves, Maben, they can break the wrong way, and they got recovery speed. Jumper and Elliott Berry, they don't have that much recovery speed. They're playmakers. It's not just the bodies. You've lost key players on that defense.
We've lost 3 of your top 4 defensive players, and that's going to hurt anybody. You also, with the offensive line, I think there were a total of, 4 offensive linemen that either were hurt going in or got hurt during the course of the game. Alabama's hard enough to block anyway. They lead the nation in run defense. Tennessee had no chance up front, and that's why at halftime I was talking to somebody and they said, well, Tennessee can come back. I said, no, they can't.
Not
Why?
today.
Well, the line of scrimmage are getting killed, and that was the biggest thing to me. They were not going to overcome being dominated up front. So I didn't think Tennessee was going to rally in this game. But and I'm with Bob. The injuries are a reason, and Tennessee, that's an inordinate amount. What's all causing that? I don't know. Bad luck maybe as much as anything, but it's really difficult to play your best football when you got so many people on the sideline.
Mike Stoll, former offensive lineman, you came into the stat today about the guys that were in there at the end.
Yeah, so if you take Coleman Thomas out of the mix, which he lost he's banged up, but he lost his starting position, so he's in there. And then you've got Tatum, Boulware, and Drew Richmond in there.
And Jones.
And Jones, between your take out the center, those other 4 guys that are playing in there, halfway through the season, 5 starts combined for all of them.
And most of those are Richmond.
That's not, and then if you look at Tatum, who was hoping to redshirt, because if you look at his body structure, I looked at one time and I thought that was a tight end lined up at tackle.
Well, he's 270.
6'6", 260, or 265, and you're going against a guy from defensive lineman from Alabama, men and a boy. I mean, it's exactly what it is, because there's a big difference between 18 years old and 21 years old playing in the SEC.
Quickly.
If you want to make a point of how the injuries hurt you, you've lost 3 of your top 4 players. Imagine how that game looks if Derek Barnett is not in there. Is it next man up for him? Do you have another guy there? Well, he ought to come in and have 2 sacks and a strip sack and 3 tackles for losses in the first half against Alabama. So there is a difference as you go down the depth chart.
And we'll show some numbers later on in this show, just what's happened with the run defense, for example, as you've lost these guys. And I think O'Brien was a much bigger loss than most people think. I'd put him as maybe one of your top 5 defenders. You could argue that 4 of your top 5, with the exception of Barnett, are out of there. But the more you've lost, the yards per carry has gone up. I don't think that's a coincidence. We'll show you that a little bit later on. Guys, coaching, I mean, you can make some points about the coaching, I suppose, but 30 seconds here. Just give me a percentage. How much of this are you putting on the coaches? What percent are you putting on injuries? Just give me a lean. 75-25, where are you going?
75%, I'd say. Injuries.
Bob?
I'd go 80% injuries.
77.5.
78.
There we go. All right. We'll come.
Do we win something?
It's like the Chuck versus Pearl. We'll see who's closer. All right. Now here's what we're doing today. We're going to take a ton of your tweets. And when we come back, some of your tweets about depth. Where's the depth? We'll talk. We've already gone through it. We'll talk about recruiting. Your tweets coming up next. We got tons of people on this show. Come on back on the Sports Source.